Oh, geez. That always sucks when the professor doesn't show up for class and doesn't let you know ahead of time. We got 7 people. I think we're good. Time to start talking about things. Now, one thing I have changed from last time is I noticed when I was watching, like rewatching the video from yesterday, that my microphone and especially the noise in the background was so loud that when I would play something over the top of like in Premiere or something from my desktop, it was kind of hard to hear it. I mean, you could hear it, but it was kind of hard to hear it. So I changed a couple settings. Let me know if this is like good enough, if it's loud enough for you guys. So I'm just gonna play this. I'm gonna play it without the music though, so let's turn the music off. You guys let me know if like my breathing is coming through louder than the stuff, or when I swallow. I mean, those are kind of annoying sounds, so I wanted to kill that a little bit. My voice was just way too loud before, so here we go. That was the wrong thing. Gosh dang it. Oh, because I turned off all these layers, that's right. Turn this off. Let's turn all these back on again. Sometimes I'll do that where I like export all the sound design into one file, and then when I'm mixing it with the music, I can kind of just do some keyframes and like change the decibel level up and down, rather than having to go through like, you know, all of these like 30 or 40 audio tracks and mess with the levels individually. There's a lot of freaking audio in this one. I did lots and lots of work on the sound design for this video, more so than like normal videos. Okay, actually let's turn these on as well. Okay, those are on. Let's see if this one will be. Okay, so we'll just stop there. We'll just talk about that first part. Okay, so it's too loud. It's too loud. Okay, let me change that setting real fast. Turn this down by 2. And play it again. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, that's the loudest part. Is that too loud still? A little behind, so I'm just waiting on you guys to see it. That's better? Okay. That's what we'll go with then. Alright, so today I wanted to talk about equalization. Equalization is one of the most important skills that you need to learn if you're going to be doing any kind of sound design. Equalization can take a really flat, like muddy, you know, voiceover and turn it into something that sounds crisp and deep like a radio voice. Equalization can take something that sounds very quiet, doesn't really have any impact into it, maybe like a laser fire that you find online on some freesound.org or something, you know, some weak sauce laser sound effect, and you can turn that into like an impactful, powerful, you know, sound effect that can really fill the space in your video. So let me just show you an example of what I am talking about. I'm gonna want this stuff down here. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my EQs, my volume controls on these R-Wing lasers here, and I'll show you the difference between how it actually, I don't even have to do that because I can just pull up the native file and you guys can just listen to how it was before. And what I can do is just single 22, 23, and 24. And that way we can listen to the differences. 22, 23, 24. So over, what the? Oh, it's different than it has been. Okay. We need something called R-Wing. Wait, why wouldn't it be at the top? Did I put it into something? I must have put it into one of these folders. Phasers? That's disruptor. Ships. Nope. Nope. There we go. There's all of our R-Wing stuff. This one's called Hyper Laser Shot 1. So this is what the original file was that I downloaded. I wanted an R-Wing laser from Star Fox. This is what I got. That's pulled directly from the game. Okay. It sounds okay, but you can imagine that in a big space battle, you're barely going to hear that with all those explosions and things like that. So how would you approach turning that into a really large, impactful sound without just basically turning the volume up a bunch? The answer is equalization. So what is equalization? Let's go over it here a little bit. You can use an equalizer here in Adobe Premiere. You just go into Audio Effects and go down to this EQ right here, and you just drag this onto your clip the same way you would for like a cross dissolve or something on your video file. There's also a volume control effect. You can drag that on there to make a second volume control. So we have this volume control, which is at 6, but it was still too quiet, so I dragged a second one on. So it's basically boosting it by 12 decibels now. But on top of a volume control, I also have 2 equalizers. And I'm actually going to open Audition just so that I can show you a little better. Let me drag this thing out here and open it up in Audition, just because it'll be a bigger visual representation of what an equalizer is. Okay, so we got the sound file here, but you guys can't hear it because this is being stupid as fetch. Nope. Headphones. There we go. Now we can hear it. Yeah. So, an equalizer looks like this. Basically, you have this straight line from left to right, a bunch of points on this line. Down below, you can see that what it is that we have on this graph is measured in Hz, which is called hertz. And you go from 0 hertz to 20,000 hertz. This is a range of audio frequencies. The lower the frequency is essentially going to be the lower the pitch. The higher the frequency is the higher the pitch of the sound. So you can look at it as all the stuff on the left, bass frequencies. Up here, you got all of your like high-end frequencies, all your high-end, high-pitched stuff, low-pitched stuff, middle-pitched stuff. Does it make sense? Now, without getting into like too much detail about this. Basically what this does is when you lower or boost, it's going to take that frequency of the sound bite you're working on, and it will boost like just that portion of it. So every sound, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's not like a square wave, well, even a square wave, but not as much, has a wide range of frequencies within it. Like the human voice, like me talking right now, there are parts of my voice that sit right in this range, right up in here. You know, this is kind of like the higher end of my voice, right around like between, you know, 4K and 7 or 8K. It doesn't, my voice will not go much above 10K, maybe a little bit, but this range right here, for the most part, doesn't exist in human voice. We don't reach these frequencies up here. Same goes for the lower part of my voice. I may be getting this wrong because it's been a long time since I've studied this stuff in school, but I'm pretty sure that my voice doesn't go much lower than this range over here. So if I'm doing an equalizer on my voice and it's sounding kind of like flat or muddy, in order to brighten it up, like give it kind of that crispness that you hear on the radio, you'd want to boost, you know, some of the upper frequencies up here just a little bit to kind of get some of that crispness out. But what you don't want to do is boost it in the wrong place and then get all your S's and like syllables like to peak the audio, because then you can get, you know, some really ugly sounding stuff. So you kind of have to play with this, put it in the right place. You might need to put that there and then, you know, cut a little frequency right where that S sound is coming from, because the S, that's a high end frequency. That's like up in this range, you know. So anyways, you'd want to boost up in here a little bit, and then boost if you're a male, you know, boost down here. It gives you more of a powerful kind of sound to your voice. Kind of gives some of that bassy low end frequency. And then if it's still sounding really muddy or flat, you know, you might want to just scoop a little bit out in the mids. But and there's no like definite like frequency that you should boost or lower. It's going to be different for every audio recording. It's going to be different by the type of mic you're using. It's going to be different by, you know, your voice. Your voice will be unique. And so the same goes for all sound. There's never like a definite EQ that you should put onto everything. I tend to really like high-end frequencies, and in the past, in my mixing for music or even for sound design, I've often favored these a little more than I should. And I'm learning now not to boost this as much as I used to, because there are some, you know, some really rough syllable, like bright sounds that I wasn't hearing when I first started mixing. I just liked the clarity and the crispness I got out of this, boosting this stuff over here. And so I'm more careful now not to go crazy on this part. And also don't go crazy on scooping down here either, because you do need some of this mid-range stuff for something to sound really natural. Anyways, but this is kind of a general EQ that I do on a lot of things, because when I'm recording anything on the microphone that I use, it tends to favor kind of this mid-range stuff. It's a really flat, really I don't want to say muddy, but just a very flat recording, and that's a good thing. It would be the same as like shooting something in CineStyle or in a flat color profile, where you now have lots of control in post over the color correction. There's lots of information there for you to play with in the color. The same principle applies here. It's like you record a really flat frequency response on your microphone, and you can do your contrast curve, is what I like to call it, here in you know, in your, whether it's Audition or whatever you're using for sound design, and you can brighten up the highlights, which are the bright frequencies, the high-end frequencies, and boost your shadows, which are your low end frequency. It's really a very similar idea. This is kind of just adding a contrast curve to your sound, and so you have to. I mean, this is kind of the general thing. As long as you understand like what this is, like these are high end frequencies, these are low end frequencies. This is like boosting or you know, removing them. Like just understanding that concept is going to go really far in helping you when you're doing sound design. So anyways, that's kind of just the general outline on what this is, what you're looking at and what it does. Now we'll go back into Premiere and see what it is I did on you can see my contrast curve, or my equalizer here is insane. Just freaking insane. I boosted the living fetch out of the low end on this, and a little bit in the brights, but I really went crazy on this. And that's just one equalizer. Then I put a second equalizer on it because I had boosted it as far as I could in the bass, and I boosted it even a little bit more. So let's listen to the difference between these two. I'm going to delete this. Don't save it. So you're going to hear, I'm going to copy this and paste it a couple times. Dang it, I had it selected somewhere else, didn't I? What the F? Where'd it go? Oh, up there. Yeah, don't do that. Too many audio tracks, man. Okay, we'll listen to 3 or 4 of these without the equalizers and then with, and you'll hear the difference. Here they come. Okay, so you can hear the difference there. Let me unsolo everything so that in the whole mix, when like all the sound design is going on, you can listen to how like basically non-existent that would be. I mean, it's there. Now do you hear the difference? Let's get these a little closer so you can listen to it again. That is the power of an equalizer and what it can do for your sound design. It can really help you take it up a notch in intensity. And so like that is basically the what I was wanting to talk about today was equalizers. I'm going to see if you guys have any questions. I don't have anybody here reading stuff. Okay, so Camo Yoshi is talking about the clipping that's going on in the VU meter. Here's the thing about clipping. When you are clipping by, and it depends, like for example, explosions, almost, let me just pull this up. I'm sure I've got a file to look at. There are certain sounds that are okay to clip. Like they clip the microphone already by themselves. They are so loud. Let's see. I want to. It's up here. I keep getting fetched by this. Do I have explosions and things? Explosions or supersonic? That would be a good example. Like sonic boom. Like look at this. This is the native wave file of an airplane. But look at the wave file itself. Like this thing is clipping on its own. That's the native recording. Okay, this one too. Look how it clips here. Let's see. These are different things I took. There's got to be some freaking explosion somewhere. There we go. Okay, this one clipping at the top. That's a distant bomb, so that's not the same. This one's clipping at the top for that first part of it. Let's see. You know, this one clips at the beginning. This one's clipping at the beginning. There are certain sounds that clip. That is what makes them sound the way they sound, is the fact that it's blowing the fetch out of everything. Explosions and gunshots, laser fire, those sorts of things, they clip. If you were to mic it, I mean, you could mic it to where you turn your levels down, like basically to non-existent levels, and get it to not clip, but you would lose all the power. It's the fact that it is clipping that makes it sound so intense. Like, bam, it's just like rocking you out of your mind, right? So distortion in sounds like that is completely okay. Like, you still don't want to go to the point where you're going to break your speakers. And by that, I mean, if you're monitoring over here with this thing and it's clipping so hard that it's going over 5 decibels above what your headroom is, that's where you might have problems. And where like the vibrations in your bass speakers might be so intense that they just like snap. Like the diaphragm just like gets like melded into it. Yeah, there can be problems with that, but clipping from between like 0 to 3 or 4 decibels above that level is generally going to be acceptable for these types of sounds. You don't want to do it with a human voice. If you're sitting there having a conversation with grandma and she's on her deathbed and she's there, you know, giving her last words or something, and she's sick and dying, like, you boost that to 3 or 4 decibels above your headroom, that's going to sound really jacked and wrong. But explosions and gunshots and those sorts of sounds specifically, I mean, you're not going to want to do this with footsteps in a chase scene. You're not going to do this when someone's yelling in a chase scene and when a person's screaming. You want to keep that, you know, down in like the -6 decibel level, or maybe up to 0. But you're not going to boost that over the top for a human voice. But all of this laser fire and explosions and stuff, totally okay to boost that. Now, overall, I mixed this a little louder than I would normally, because I knew what I was going to do was I was going to export this whole thing into one track. Once I had all the levels like in relation to each other at the right place, I was basically going to be pulling all these into one track. And when I did that, I was going to be, you see, doing these small sort of boosts with the music. I'd boost the music for impact here and lower all of my sound design, and then pick it back up while I, you know, scoop this down so that I could because that's the thing about mixing for sound design with music. A lot of times you get your sound design to where it's like, yeah, that sounds really good, that sounds impactful, that sounds sick, right? And then you throw the music in there, it's like you can't hear the music. And rather than going through and individually changing all of this stuff, the easier thing was just like, all of these things in relation to each other sound right. Therefore, I don't need to worry about doing this all at once. I can now do them all at once by putting them all together in one track and then just lowering and raising the volume on its own track. Does that make sense? And then doing the same with the music so that the music can shine through at certain parts. So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Listen to, I don't know just how loud this is on its own. Now listen with the music and watch what happens. That's just like too much. That's just like, whoa, there's so much sound going on, like I can't concentrate on any one thing. And you are getting some distortion there. It's being pushed far beyond its limit of the 3 or 4 decibel limit above. Especially with music, you don't want to get that distortion with music. Music you want to keep below below that limit over here, right? So what I ended up doing was this. That's solo number 4 and 5. And all of a sudden, it's going to sound much better. You see, it's reaching that limit still, but it's not going 3 or 4 decibels above. And even still, I could probably come into my master here now after listening to it. It's been a while since I've done this, and lower this by about 3 decibels, because it is getting a little bit above that. I mean, again, if you go like 1 decibel above that level, it's usually not going to be too bad. I can hear a little bit of it now. So you're still reaching basically the limit, but it's not going like way over the top, right? So you just kind of have to play with that. But don't be scared when that turns red. Like if that turns red, that's not a bad thing, especially for those types of sounds like explosions and gunshots and things like that. If it's going way above that, then you know you'll start to get some of that little crackling in your headphones or in your speakers, and you know that you're in danger of like damaging them. So and it sounds ugly. So you kind of have to play with this just a little bit and get it to where you're basically reaching the maximum level of impact with your sound, but at the same time not boosting it too high. Now that I'm watching it, I'm pretty sure I remember that that's what we did, is that in the final export, you know, I gave him this, and I think that we because Kaysen was the one editing it, I was just doing sound design and then giving him the file afterwards. Pretty sure that we did a master, like lowered it in the master so that it was basically just coming right up to that point, but not like exceeding it by a whole lot. Let's see if we have any more questions. Okay, so I have 2 different pairs of headphones. The ones I'm using right now are a Sony MDR XB500. These aren't like the most amazing headphones I've ever used. Like, I don't know, they're decent. I think we got them for like, I want to say $70 when we first bought them. But these headphones definitely favor lower end frequencies. They when you're listening to them, they make music sound really good, especially if you're listening to something with lots of like kick drum and like bass and stuff like that. It really like boosts that lower end stuff a little bit, which is cool if you're just listening to music. It's not that cool when you are mixing sound, because what you want is something that gives you a flat frequency response so that you can hear it accurately. It doesn't sweeten the deal for you, so to speak. So the other pair of headphones that I have are over here. And these are brain waves. Can't remember the... Oh, it's an HM5. Brainwaves HM5. These were about $115, I believe, when I bought them. These are really good for like mixing, because they don't boost any frequencies. They give you a really flat frequency response. So you can listen to it and it's like, okay, I know where I need to boost now, or I know where I need to scoop. And it can be, it's better for as a mixing tool, basically. It doesn't sound really sparkly and amazing, so you don't use these to like listen to music, but you use them to mix so that you know, like, okay, my bass is out of control, or something like that. Let's see. Audio-Technica M50s, I probably did look at them when I was like searching around. I read so many good things about the brain waves that I ended up going with those instead. For the price, it was just like totally unbeatable. Anyways, anybody have any questions about what I've been talking about equalization and that sort of thing? It's basically the whole purpose is just like, okay, in this sound, like I'm not getting enough out of the bass, so you can just boost just the bass, you know, without boosting. It's not raising the whole level up. Like the difference between what you're doing with an equalizer and what you're doing with just volume control is bringing all the frequencies up, however many decibels you designate. An equalizer, you can pick and choose which frequency in that sound clip you want to boost or lower, so that you can basically change the shape of the sound. And it's a very, very useful and important tool when kind of shaping. And I think music production is where it comes in the most handy. You have to be equalizing like everything when you're doing music, because especially with the type of music that I like to play, which is more rock and you know, metal and that sort of stuff, they're basically pushing the limits all the time for how loud they can make it sound. They compress the fetch out of everything, and they really boost it to like its maximum level. Yeah, so in order to do that and still be able to get the clarity out of each individual instrument, you have to use an equalizer so that the frequencies aren't running into each other. For example, like a bass guitar and your, you know, rhythm guitar that might be playing kind of the same root progression, you still want to be able to hear the bass distinctly separated from the guitar. And so you'd want to, for a bass guitar, you'd obviously want to boost a lot in the bass frequencies, and not so much in the bright end of it. And then on the guitar, you'd want to scoop out the bass frequencies and boost it in the mids and high mids, so that is ringing through within that part of the frequency, and the bass is ringing through in a separate part of the frequency. And so you hear them distinctly separate from each other. You do the same thing with like the kick drum and the snare drum, so that they're not like running into each other. Like the only frequencies that you hear for that particular instrument are coming through one place in the mix that it is designated to. This instrument only is in this range of frequencies. And so that makes your music sound really clean and everything like that. Okay, so yeah, Crazy Boy's asking about equalizing your microphone live, and Kamoyoshi gave a great response. Only if your sound card can support it, and if your broadcasting software supports it. So I'm using, what is this called, Open Broadcaster, because it's free. Excuse me. And I don't know if they have a setting like that for EQ. You'd have to come here into audio and see if they have some sort of like equalization curve on this, right, that you could mess with. But I don't know. I don't know if you can do that in here. I don't think so, because it's open broadcast or it's free software. But maybe they do in some other thing. Okay, we got some more people in here. Anyone who is in the chat now who wasn't here earlier, that I can maybe go back over some of that information with. I'll be releasing these on my behind the scenes channel, Warrior 2. So if you're joining me late, or if you aren't able to get here on time, the information will be posted again a second time. But today we're talking about equalizers. I'll actually open up one of my music projects so that we can maybe take a look at that a little bit. I can do Chrono Trigger, which is one of my favorites that I did. I can do this Mega Man song. Actually, that one has changed recently. That one's not finished. I can do... Did I go in the right place? I think I did. I can do my Shadow of the Colossus mix. This was a long time ago. Actually, I might not be able to. I might have done that in Sound Booth, which I don't have anymore. I could do... I think this Star Fox one was definitely on Sound Booth. I could do... What did I just do recently? I did Pokemon. But I did this in Cubase, which is a little different. So you guys let me know which of all the songs I've done would you like to see the project file for the music. I don't know if the people in here have really even like subscribed to our music channel, the rock channel, or you've heard our songs in our videos, but any particular song you guys would like to see, like take a look at. If nobody has a preference, I'll just pick something. Let's take a look at that. We have a lot of games. Thanks for the question, Anti-Muffin. We are giving away, we have a bunch of Xbox games that Ubisoft gave us for working with them last year. We got 2 packages of basically the same sort of pack. So we got Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. We got Splinter Cell, the latest Splinter Cell game, Blacklist. We have Just Dance 2014, Rayman Legends, Rocksmith 2014. So we have 2 copies of all 5 of those games. And so they are all on Xbox 360. That's what they gave us. So if you have a 360 and you have any preference to any one of those games, we'll be handing out one of those 5 to... We'll just be choosing the person at random once we hit 200 followers. No, we only got them on Xbox. They only gave us Xbox. I really wish they had sent us the second packet with PlayStation 3 versions. But I personally pretty much exclusively do gaming on my PC. I have an Xbox 360, but these games haven't been touched because I have all of them on Xbox 360. Or I have them all on Steam, is what I was trying to say. I have them all on PC. So if you have an Xbox 360, Well, even if you don't, like if you win, you can just sell the game, I guess, or give it to somebody you know who has a 360. Anyways, I'm going to just open up a project file since we didn't get any personal... I think I'm just going to use Chrono Trigger. I enjoyed this one a lot. And there it is. Okay, which one? That one was the video version. I think this is the one. Probably gonna take a second to load all this stuff. I had a lot of things going on. And everything's gonna have to like pre-render here. So this is gonna take a couple minutes. So while I'm waiting for that to happen, I'll come back in here and answer questions. So for those of you who joined late, looks like we have a few people coming in right now. Talking about equalization today. And the first part of the video, I went over some sound design I did in the Star Fox video we released a couple months ago. And so this is all going to be uploaded again a little bit later today on our behind the scenes channel, Warrior Lasky 2. So you can watch it there a little bit later in the day. And I talked about how to use it for like your sound design and sound effects and things of that nature. But now I'm going to talk about it a little bit in music production, which is where I think it would be even more heavily needed or used. So while I get all these things to render here so that we can listen to them. I have very recently actually developed an entirely new method of mixing music. So this is kind of outdated for me, but the principles still apply. It does not matter which software you use. You don't have to have Adobe Audition to do any of the stuff that I'm talking about. Like equalization is a technique and a tool that is going to come with anything you're using to mix your sound. Premiere has equalization. Sony Vegas has equalization. What do you call it? What's that free sound program everyone loves? Audacity. Audacity is going to have an equalizer in it. Like anything that is designated gives you options to edit, cut, like sound is going to give you an equalizer to use. So while you might not have exactly the same software I'm using, like the principles are going to apply across any software you use. It's just sound techniques. It's all encompassing. Let's see if I can get this to play. Might master down a little bit. Okay, so that is my, that. Oh, somebody wanted to see Mario Parkour, sorry. I did not see that ahead of time. I can open that one up too. I'll open that one up as well. Anyways, you notice in this mix, I was avoiding getting to that clipping point more so than I was in the sound design on the video we were previously watching. That is because with music, you have to be a little more careful. Now, with this style of music, like the metal rock stuff, it's not as important as it would be with like classical music or something that's a little softer. With this music, the sound is so big and so full, again, that if you go about a decibel, maybe a decibel and a half above, you know, your peaking point, you can get away with it because it's harder to hear that crackling because there's so much sound there. So if it's like, man, I'm just not getting like the volume I want out of this, there are ways to do that, which I'll go over probably in another video in the next couple days with like compression and those types of things that can really, you know, that can really help to give the illusion of higher volume. But if it's like, man, I just need that extra decibel, I just need a little bit more out of it, I need a little more juice, you can go with this style of music about a decibel over. And as long as you're not hearing it in your speakers, as long as you're not hearing it like really straining anything, you're generally going to be okay. You do not want to go like 2, 3, 4 decibels over that level, though. That's where you're going to start having problems and where you could hurt your speakers. So anyways, I'm a little bit more careful on my music mixes not to hit that point. I use other techniques to try to raise the volume. With explosions and gunshots and laser fire and those sorts of sounds in, you know, sound design, I'm totally okay with going 2 to 3 decibels over because that's what explosions sound like anyways. In real life, you stand next to an explosion, it's gonna like blow the fetch out of your ear. So that's like that's what the whole sound is perceived to be, is this just like over encompassing, like blowing out, like really loud bam sound. And so those types of sounds you can go a little crazy with, but again, you can't go too crazy. You can't go like 5, 6, 7 decibels over the breaking point, or you're gonna like ruin your speakers. But if you go, you know, 2 or 3 on those, generally you're gonna be okay. But don't be too crazy. Try to keep in mind that if you're getting into that red mark, like, you're gonna start damaging your speakers if you go too crazy. So anyways, right now we're talking about equalization, and there was a question there from Spectral Eclipse asking about pointers for EQing the human voice. I'll actually show that off. Give me just a little bit. I will show you exactly what I do for equalizing my voice on my gaming channel, and you guys can get an idea of, you know, what I do. Again, all of this stuff is going to be posted to Warrior Lasky 2, my behind the scenes channel, later on the day. So anything I've gone over before now, you can go watch it then. But let's get back into this. So for this bass guitar, I have an equalizer on it. Let's take a look at it. Looks like I boosted the... Okay. In order for me to describe the type of sound that I go for with my music, I want something that has lots of brightness and clarity and punchy, hard attack transients. That's the sound I like. So when you're looking at my equalization for some of this stuff, it may not apply to the music that you do or the sound design that you do. But like my equalization on this bass guitar has lots of high-end brightness over here that you'll notice. The reason for that, and I could actually, to be totally honest, I could probably bring this in a little bit so that we're just getting that particular frequency. basically the higher you go with this number, the smaller the band is, so that you're getting just that specific frequency that you want. I would probably go more with a 3. But the reason I did that is because that's where your attack transient, your pick attack is, the like the gung 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 gung. When you hear that, when you hear metal music and you get that chugging sound, that pick attack, that hard attack transient, is located up in these frequencies, and so that's why I boost this for the bass. I also boosted the mids maybe a little bit, just because I liked the overall sound of that when the whole mix was coming together versus having this down a little bit. But for the most part, on a bass guitar, you're gonna boost the bass frequencies over here. This is what you want to do. And then when you go into your rhythm guitars, again, this is probably going to be a little backwards from what you would normally do because I'm going for a very distinct sort of sound. But yeah, see how I'm not boosting the bass? I'm boosting this all over here in the pick attack area. A little bit of high mid. Again, a little bit, this is like the higher end high mid, and then up here in the pick attack area. But I don't bass it down here or boost it down here, because I want this to sit in its own place in the mix. Like the guitars should ring through in the high mid area between 1K and like 5 or 6K. This is where you want your guitars to shine. This is not where you want your bass guitar to shine, because you don't want them running into each other. Okay, you want them to come through in their own place on the mix. So you want your bass guitar to sing right in here. You might want your strings to sing in this area, your guitars to sing in this area, your cymbals are all going to be up here. And then when you do that, and you could take that even a step further, is you can scoop down here so that your guitars really don't, they really don't come through in the bass at all. That's all going to be carried by the bass guitar. Now, at this particular point in time, I hadn't developed a technique for a really good distortion on my bass. I do now. I use Pod Farm, which is freaking excellent. But at that time, I couldn't, with my recording method, I couldn't really come up with a really solid distortion on the bass guitar that I liked a lot. And so my bass was always just the flat, bass tone that came out of the amplifier I'm using. And I just used that to kind of richen up the deep end, but I didn't use it to shine on its own and give it its own kind of distinct, unique tone. I have a method for doing that now, and so what I would do in like a current mix is I would scoop these, definitely, because that bass guitar, I can make it really rich and powerful on its own. But at this time, I still wanted some of these lower end frequencies to come through in the rhythm guitars. So it's really just a game where you have to go through it hundreds of times and listen to it and make small tweaks to the equalization here or there. Like, okay, I'm getting too much out of this part, not enough from here. Oh, this is sounding muddy. Why is that? Oh, these two instruments, their equalizations are too close to each other. So I need to pull this one over a little bit and get it ringing in a different frequency. And it's just kind of like a cat and mouse game where you take a little here, take away a little here, on top of, just boosting the overall levels on the end. And eventually, well, the more layers you have, the more complicated that process is going to be. But eventually, the goal is to get each instrument to the point where you can hear it distinctly in the mix, so that you hear the guitars. It's like, okay, those are the guitars. That's the bass guitar. That's what that's doing. Those are the strings. Like, I can hear each individual part. And, it doesn't have to be so distinct. You're still trying to create a harmony of music, but you should be able to pick them out. You don't want to sit there as a mixer or a sound engineer and have someone ask, man, like, I'm having trouble like hearing that guitar part. What's going on there? Like, I play by ear. I don't read. Well, I do read music, but I choose not to read music, I should say, because I'm much faster at learning music just by ear. I listen to it, I pick out the part, and then I figure out how to play it on my own. So I'm you know, I kind of have an ear for that. I've been gifted in that way. And so for me, it's really frustrating when I'm listening to a mix and it's like, okay, I cannot pick out the bass guitar. I do not know what it's doing. It's not distinct enough for me to be able to pick out the individual notes. And that's what you want to avoid when you're mixing music. You want to be able to hear everything equally. There are some things like the melody and lead parts, which obviously need to be a little louder than the rest. But you still want to be able to pick out each individual part. And that's where equalization comes into play, so that you can let them sit in their own frequencies. Like guitars, you guys get this little frequency over here. You get your place in the mix, and no one else is going to interrupt you there. That's yours. Bass guitar, you get this place. This is yours. You can own this spot in the mix. My strings can own this spot. My kick drum can own this spot, you know. And you try to establish those frequencies where those instruments can sit alone and be picked out and be distinct. Let me see if there are any more questions. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so we're going to get into EQing the human voice, and I'm also going to show off my Mario Parkour mix as well. So let's do the Mario Parkour mix first, which is going to be back here. The Mario Parkour mix is actually pretty interesting because I didn't do really any compression on this. Normally with like metal music and stuff like that, you're going to be pretty heavily compressing the music in order to actually, I think I could probably show you what that would sound like, because I was playing with it and I was like, you know what, for this style of music, for Mario music, for whatever reason, like the heavy compression method, like it doesn't work. Because Mario music is very technical. I was actually very surprised when I was learning these parts, like how all over the place the bass guitar is. Like the bass guitar does not sit in a root progression of 4 notes ever. It is always doom 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 boom 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 boom. It's like all over the place in the scale, and like it's constantly moving, and that's what makes Mario music sound so unique. Like you can pick out a Mario song almost always. It's because it's got that poppy, like really catchy bass line. And so that was, first of all, kind of difficult to learn, but also difficult to mix, because it's like the bass guitar is a really important instrument in this music. And so when you're compressing stuff, what that normally does is it just like it kind of like, well, I'll just have you listen to it. You'll be able to tell the difference. So let's listen to it on its own here. And then I will put the compression on there, and I'll show you guys what that sounds like. Now I'm just going to throw a compression on there. I won't go over exactly what I'm doing. I'll talk about compression in another video probably. Where is it? There it is. Multi-band compressor. This is kind of like the basic standard compression I would do on this sort of thing. Boost this by about 7 decibels, boost this by about 4 decibels, boost this by about 7 decibels. Okay, so here we go. Do you hear the difference there? I could actually boost this master now. It makes it sound more impactful because it's being compressed, but like it's kind of hard to explain what a compressor is. I'm not going to talk about compressors right now. Just know that a compressor basically squishes the audio file down, and then you basically boost it, and it like gives this illusion where the perceived volume is a lot louder. It's not actually louder, but it sounds louder. But you can hear how muddy it begins to become. Like how just like over encompassing, and it's just like this, all the sound is like so in your face. You lose some of that subtlety and distinctness in the performance of the music. So we'll listen to this again. I'll go back to the original. Now we'll turn this off. Make sure to take this volume back down and do it again. Do you hear the difference there? So if you look at the wave file, look at this. Like it's still coming up to the peak quite often. So the overall volume, I mean, it's coming right to the limit. When we turn this compressor on and go back down to where we were, which is about -6, same thing. They're not, one is not particularly louder than the other. The difference is that when the compressor is off, the like average volume of this, see how far it goes up and then comes back down? It comes back down to about the 9-10 decibel level quite often. It like comes down here like this. When it's compressed, the average volume level is way up here. It like never comes below this level. So you can understand what it's doing there is the reason it sounds louder is because it's just, its average decibel level is higher than the other one. And that can work for you depending on the song. I mean, if you're doing like a big ballad and you got like just this, you got a whole orchestra behind you and it's just like loud, emotional, like bam, bam, you're holding these like, these notes, right? You're really like sailing these notes and it's just like, like bam, like impact, like rising tension, rising climax. Compressing like that can work. Because it's just gonna like make everything sound a little louder, a little fuller. But you're going to lose note clarity, which is fine if you're playing a progression. You're just holding out these long emotional notes over time because you don't have tons of notes going on there. Losing a little note clarity is not a big deal. When you have a bass riff like this, note clarity becomes really important. You need to be able to hear all that stuff. It's very interesting. Let me actually solo that bass line. I freaking love the bass line in the Mario 2 theme there. When you have lines like that, you need note clarity, especially in the bass, because the bass can become, you can lose that attack transient really quickly in the bass. In fact, on this mix, I don't know how I did the equalizer. Yeah, see, on this one, I didn't boost the attack up here at all. And so for that reason, you definitely don't want to compress so that you can still hear some of this stuff. It's not becoming so muddy and mixed with everything else and compressed. I put a compressor on this one as well, its own compressor. I really boosted the gain on the low end. Let's actually see what it sounded like before I did that. I'm curious. Whoops. There you get a little more note clarity versus this. So you kind of have to pick and choose. Like, I decided to do kind of a smaller compression on the bass guitar itself, so then when I did a compressor on the overall mix on the master, like I was losing too much note clarity there. So, you know, it's a balance issue. You kind of have to just play with it a little bit. So there you go. Okay. We will see. Still no more questions. So let's talk about EQing the voice. Spectral Eclipse, you still there? Let me know if you're still there. Because you were the one who asked this. I want to make sure that you get the answer to it. I'm a little bit behind. Seems to be about a 30-second, sometimes a 45-second delay. In the meantime, I'll pull something up to do an EQ on. Let's see. I need a human voice. I need a file. You know what? I think I have something in here. Oh, it's not in there, is it? It should be in the computer then. Let me just see which one of these are which. Recording. 3, 2, 1, click. There we go. That works. I'll pull this up in Audition. Do I still have Audition open with that other file? Because if so, I should close it. Hey, Audition. Get over here. Let's not save anything we did to this. Okay, so really cool feature about Adobe Premiere and the whole Adobe suite is right-click it. If it's an audio file, you can say Edit Clip in Adobe Audition, and it's going to open that up directly into Audition, and anything you do in Audition and save will also save it to the file here in Premiere. Really useful. It's called Dynamic Link. The Dynamic Link feature is really, really nice. Anyways, here's my audio file. Recording. 3, 2, 1, click. Well, I barely made it out of that one. Used Omni Slash with like 3 HP left and killed the final boss. So this was a recording I did for my gaming channel. I'm doing a walkthrough of Final Fantasy VII at the moment, and this was the audio file I recorded. Now, one really important thing when you're doing voiceover is to make sure, I mean, everyone's mic is going to be different, right? So your mic is going to record differently than mine does. So you can't just apply the exact same EQ that I'm putting on here onto yours. It's not going to sound the same because your microphone is different. Your voice is different. Every sound bite that you work on, like, there's so many factors that go into how you should shape it. So it really comes down to you just need to listen to what you're doing and say, like, okay, that doesn't sound good, so I need to change my EQ a little bit. EQ is something you have to play with a lot in order to get something you like. Now, with the mic setup that I have, I've developed a process. I know how close I'm going to be to my mic when I speak into it. I know the position of my mic in my bedroom. I put it in the same place every time. I put it in the same place relative to... I always have the same setup now. I have figured out a process. So I can make... so I can come in here and create a preset for equalization that I like, and then just apply that same preset every time. And what that does is it gives consistency to the voiceovers that I do on my gaming channel. So my voice typically will sound the same from one video to the next. I like to keep that consistency. So you will have to play with your equalizations and with your microphone, the position of it in the room that you record in. It's going to sound different depending on if you're in a different room. You could have all the same stuff, but you record it in a different room, sounds totally different. The, acoustics of the room are going to change the quality and the shape of that sound recording. Sound can be so affected just by the space that it's done in. Anyways, I have a preset that I use because I found that in this room, with this microphone at this placement, and with me as close to it as I generally am when I play, that I have two equalizers. One like this. Again, it's sort of the same basic concept I talked about in the beginning of the video. For the human voice, none of this stuff up here. None of this. You do not want these frequencies, and that's just noise. The more of these frequencies, between 10,000 and, whatever this is, 40,000, we can't even hear, as human beings, we cannot hear any frequency past 20K. Our ears are incapable of hearing something, a frequency above 20,000 hertz. So 20,000 to 40,000 hertz, like this fetch, like, you don't need that. You can't hear that stuff. So what I often do is I kind of do this gentle slope off so that it's just, slowly kind of like sloping off these frequencies above 20K. I boost somewhere in between 7K and 10K. Do kind of this like gentle curve. And that's going to give you the brightness, the clarity, again, like the sharpness in your voice recording. For a male voice, you might also want to boost these bass frequencies in between 100 and 200 hertz. That'll give you some of that radio voice, give you some of that masculinity you're looking for. If you're a female, you don't need to boost this. Please don't. It sounds weird. And then I scoop, or not scoop, but I boost just a little bit some of these high mids to balance it out a little bit. So that's the first EQ that I do. Second one, I wanted to kill some of these high mids. And what I could have done is just come in here and do it here. But a lot of times it's just like, well, I got some things I like out of that. I'll just create a new EQ and scoop the part I don't like. So I apply those two. So here's the voice recording before and after. Used Omni Slash with like 3 HP left and killed the final boss. So now with used Omni Slash with like 3 HP left and killed the final boss. So you see that you're getting just a little bit of boost there. You're getting more of that radio voice quality out of it, but you're also getting more noise. Noise is being introduced into it. So I apply that. I also apply a second equalizer, or a third, I guess, equalizer. A preset I made called S-Killer, but I usually want to do it around 5200 hertz. And this is just scooping really hard the syllable, the S syllable. Sometimes, well, that letter is used a lot in the English language, and so you're constantly using an S sound, and if it's boosted too much, it starts to get really obnoxious. So I like to kind of kill the S syllable a little bit in my stuff. Used Omni Slash with like 3 HP left and killed the final boss. So that way you get those soft S sounds rather than those really sharp S sounds, which can be kind of piercing and hurt your ears a little bit. So I like to kill those a little bit. Used Omni Slash with like
3 HP left and killed the final boss.
So that's starting to sound pretty nice, but it's overall a very quiet recording still. So you want to boost it so that you can hear it, but listen to the noise that's going to be introduced.
Used Omni Slash with like 3 HP left and killed the final boss, or the last enemy. Anyways, once you win all 7 battles straight, come talk to this person.
Now, luckily, I have some spaces here where the noise is it stands on its own. It's basically soloed. Like, I'm not saying anything. There's no sound other than this noise. If you allow for that, what I'll often do is I'll get ready for my recording, and then I'll just sit quietly for about 10 seconds before I start. And what that does is it gives me a little space where there's just this noise that I can solo out and remove. So if you're using Adobe Audition, like I am, they have a really, really interesting feature where you can just grab that space. Here's my noise. And I can tell the computer to reference that. I can tell it to capture the noise print. Like that. So now it is referencing that selection of audio. Click off of it so that it'll apply it to the whole thing rather than to just the selection. Go back into noise restoration, noise reduction. And I could probably explain what this is a little bit so you guys understand. What you have here are your high-end frequencies and your low-end frequencies. All this red stuff is your low-end frequencies. The high-end frequency is where we're getting all that noise. So depending on where you move this threshold, you know, the further down I move it, that means the green part here, that's where it's going in and gonna remove noise. Basically, that's the threshold. So you can tell it, like, if you go right onto it, like the higher up you go, like this, you get right onto that yellow part, it's going to take, or it's going to try to take 100% of all that noise that it's referenced and just remove it entirely. Let me show you what that does. It's not always a good idea because it kind of makes your voice sound a little strange.
Recording. 3, 2, 1, click. Well, I barely made it out of that one. Used Omni Slash with...
It's not so bad here because there wasn't that much noise to begin with. The more noise there is, the weirder that's going to sound. You'll hear the compression in your voice. You hear it kind of like dipping in and out, and it sounds crazy. So what I like to do, rather than do 100%, is do something closer to like 50%. If it's really bad, you know, I might go up to 60 or 70% instead. But since there isn't that much noise to begin with, I can go to about 50%, and you can still retain all of the quality and clarity of your voice without removing some of that with the noise, but still get rid of most of the noise. See, so there's still a little noise there, like a little bit. And if that's still too much for you, I mean, like, come back in here and do a little more, you know? Come back in here and go to 70% instead. Now there's very little.
Recording. 3, 2, 1, click.
But you can still retain some of the quality in your voice. Now, if you don't have that tool, there are other ways to get rid of noise. Again, knowing what we know about where noise sits on this is that it's all up in here. Between 10,000 and 20,000 hertz. That's what we're hearing. So you can come in and scoop this some more. Now, you don't want to do it too much because, again, you'll probably want to like slope this off and like get in here and be like, I don't want this noise, but at the same time you don't want to lose this range because you see it's starting to slope off here. So you don't want to bring this up and say, like, don't get rid of that specifically. Don't slope that off too much. And let's see if that kills our noise at all. I mean, not a lot, but some. And that's because that noise isn't just hiss. Like, there is hiss there, and we're getting rid of some of it with this equalization, but there's also hum there from my computer, which is probably more in this range. So you'd have to go find the frequency where that's at and kind of kill that too. And you can get really specific with this. You don't have to have like a really wide band like that. You can have a really narrow band and like really look around for that and just listen to it. See if you can find where that's coming from.
What?
So we got some of it up in here. Anyways, so that would be the way you'd have to really kind of mess with that and find out where that frequency is that the noise is coming from, and remove it that way. So that's my tips on human voice equalization. Do we have any more questions? Because I think I've gone over just about everything I wanted to today. Any more questions before I end the stream? I mean, I'm having a hard time believing that the last comment was from Crazy Flayboy. Maybe I've lost the conversation here a little bit. Are you guys seeing the chat box? Is the chat box working right now? Good question. I would say the answer to that is I'm not so awesome at this. I am still learning. I'm still very much I'm not like I was mentioning yesterday, I am not the grand master of sound design. I'm still very much a student, and I'm still learning techniques. I'm still developing the ear for it. I think that's kind of the hardest part, is like when I first started doing sound design, I really wanted to boost the high-end frequencies a lot. I really liked that frequency. I liked the clarity that comes in that, but I was just like overdoing it quite a bit. And you can go back to some of my early mixes, both for sound design on the videos as well as the music I did, and you can see like, wow, that's got a lot of high-end in it, and there's no mids. For some reason, I really didn't like mids. I liked scooping mids and boosting high-end frequencies, and it did not sound good. I'm developing the ear for this sort of thing and learning what sounds nice to people. I got a lot of complaints early on, especially when we did our first Skyrim video, the Skyrim Modern Dovahkiin, with the remix of Sons of Skyrim, where I was wearing the helmet and going out into the wilderness and playing guitar. I got probably hundreds of complaints on that video about the tone, the guitar tone. People were like, it's piercing my ear. Oh, it's garbage. It sounds so bad. And to me at the time, I was like, but I really liked that sound. I don't know how people can complain about that. And I took it kind of personally, but you can't do that. You have to realize that, like, even what you think the best you can do sometimes, it really isn't like as good as it can be. You can always improve. You can always improve your ear for things. You can always improve your method. You can take more time and really get into it and listen for those, again, for like voiceover, those syllables that are piercing just a little bit. And you can take more time, be more careful, make sure you're not boosting things too much. Make sure everything's really clean and clear and sounds nice and fits together in the mix. This is just a never-ending process of fine-tuning. And I've been doing it now for about 3 years. But 3 years from now, I'm sure that I'll be far better than I am today. And eventually I will master this stuff, but it's going to take me some time. I'm still not there yet, and I definitely realize that. Any more questions before I end the stream? Yeah, you got kind of the infinity thing going on there with the endless Twitch screens. You are literally staring into eternity. If you were able to shrink small enough, you'd be able to see screens going on forever. Actually, that's not true. My screen is actually finite. It only has a certain number of pixels, so it really does come to an end at some point there. But technically, I mean, yeah, that should be going on forever. Twitch for eternity. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. I can just end the stream here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in again tomorrow. Tomorrow, I don't think I'm going to do a sound design tutorial again. I think I'm going to think for a couple days about what I should talk about. I might talk about compression, but I think tomorrow I'm going to play a game. So actually, let me just ask that first before anything else. You guys can recommend a game you'd like to see me play if you want. Camo Yoshi gave me a game pretty recently. Very similar to like Arrow Fighters. It's almost like an arcade shooter. Can't remember the name of it, but I haven't had a chance to fire that up yet, so that's one I would definitely consider playing. I have Dark Souls 2 still. About halfway through my playthrough on that, so I could play Dark Souls 2 again. There's another, what do you call it? Another game that I was gifted by a viewer, Mafia 2. That's what it is. I could play Mafia 2 because that was gifted to me by somebody. Let's take a look at my Steam list here. You guys can let me know. Raiden Legacy. That's the one. Raiden Legacy. I could play Raiden Legacy. Very interested in that game. In fact, like the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of just deciding that's what I'm going to do. So tomorrow can be more or less just a chill day. Just come hang out with me while I play this new game or whatever. You can still ask me any questions you want, but I won't be talking specifically about sound stuff tomorrow. I'm going to close this. Oh, Steam, you piece of fetch. Why? It always does this. It'll say like, oh, you can't connect to Steam. And then I click on it again, it works. So, I don't know what its deal is. Okay, I have a lot of games in my Steam library that I haven't even like tried yet. This game, A Virus Named Tom. I don't even know how I got this. It must have been part of like a Humble Bundle or something. I don't even know what that is. I didn't like Alan Wake much. I played it a little bit on Xbox 360. Bastion I have not finished. I've played 27 minutes, as you can see. It's a game I need to finish. I have tried so hard to get into BioShock, guys. I don't like first-person shooters. Played Castle Crashers a lot. Played this game on Xbox as well. I haven't played any of these Company of Heroes games. I've played Chivalry a little bit. Yeah, because I played for about an hour. But now that I have a better computer, I think I'd like to try that out. I really enjoy, even though I'm really bad at it. I got Crysis 2. Holy fetch, when I get Crysis 2. Dead Space is awesome. Deadly Premonition. This is a game I've been wanting to play for a while. Very, very interested in this. It got tons of really bad reviews, but I am telling you, I've seen this game played, and it's not as bad as people think. It's actually... It's got like that Lone Peak. Is it Lone Peak? Lone Peaks? Lone Peak, the TV show? Dead Peak? Fetch, I can't remember the name of it. It's got that kind of quality to it. That kind of cult following. I haven't played this game yet. Devil May Cry, the newest one. I haven't played... This game, Evoland, is actually pretty cool. I might want to play that. Like, it's a lot better in the early portions than it is later on. It's, like, way better at the beginning than at the end. But it's a very interesting game. And if you played RPGs back in the day, or, like, adventure games on, like, Super Nintendo and Game Boy and NES and stuff like that, this is a very interesting game. Haven't played any of these Fear games. Not played Well, I have played Fable 3 and Fable 2, but I have not finished Fable 1. I've never actually gotten all the way through that. Haven't played Far Cry 3 yet. It's one I really want to play. Gone Home. I'm very interested in this one. Haven't played it yet. I got to finish Kentucky Route Zero, but I think I'll do that on my own time. Hawkins, a lot of fun. Mafia 2. That's the game I was gifted that I haven't tried yet. Papo and Yo, this is an indie game I've really been wanting to play. Anyways, if you see anything here, tons of Star Wars games. If you see anything here, this Walking Dead game, like, won so many Game of the Year awards and stuff, not even installed it yet. So anyways, you tell me what you'd like to see me play. Oh, got a question here about, am I going to get Watch Dogs? Eventually, yes. I'm not going to get it right away. Because as you can see from my Steam list, I have probably like half of those games that are in there I haven't even installed and tried yet. I got them all on sale because I knew it was something I would want to pick up eventually. I'm not buying these games brand new or anything like that and not touching them. I'm getting them on Steam sales when they go down to like $5, $10. Picking them up because I'm interested in them, but I haven't had a chance to get into them yet. So anyways, I have tons of games in that list I need to play first before I'm going to go out and buy Watch Dogs at, full price. Yes, Camo, holy crap, that is literally the worst part of the game is the final boss. The final boss is so terribly designed. It's like they obviously, well, I don't know about running out of time. They're an indie developer. Like, why do they have a deadline for, But that final boss was just unbelievably frustrating. I was really disappointed in that whole section of the game right at the end. I loved the game up into about the point where you get a lot of the Final Fantasy VII reference stuff, where it kind of goes into that PlayStation 1 era of graphics. Right up to that point, I really loved the game, and then right from there on, it seemed to just really go downhill. Anyways, I'll probably play Raiden Legacy, but maybe I'll play a couple different games tomorrow. But I'll be streaming at the same time, right at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So thanks for watching, guys.